8 minutes to pushback. The intercom tone slices the quiet as passengers settle in. Marcus Carter adjusts his jacket. Elaine folds her boarding pass neatly into her purse. Seat 2, A2B. Paid, confirmed, printed in black ink. Then the voice. Sharp, polite, practiced. "Excuse me," says Linda, the chief flight attendant, brow furrowing. "Are you sure these are your seats?" The pause lands like a slap. The man across the aisle stops scrolling. Overhead bins click shut too loud, too final. Elaine straightens. "Yes, that's our boarding pass." Linda's eyes skim it, but her lips purse anyway. "We'll just double check." A hum of whispers slides through the cabin. The air feels heavier, recycled with disbelief. Marcus looks out the window, his reflection fractured by sunlight on the glass. He says nothing. The injustice is visible, and silence is his armor. Have you ever been judged before anyone even asked your name? Before we dive deeper, tell me, where in the world are you listening from right now? Drop your city in the comments and hit subscribe so you don't miss stories that challenge injustice and celebrate dignity. Now, let's return to the cabin, where the countdown is still ticking and every second pulls us closer to the truth. 6 minutes to pushback. The cabin lights dim slightly. Boarding is almost complete. The hum of the air system sounds like an impatient breath. Linda stands in the aisle again, the printed manifest fluttering in her hand. "Mr. and Mrs. Carter," she says with a clipped smile. "Could I see your tickets one more time?" Elaine hands them over. The paper is smooth, official, black letters, bold against white. Confirmation, payment, legitimacy. Linda holds them between 2 fingers, not reading, just looking. She leans toward her supervisor, Mark, who stepped in from the galley. "They probably upgraded themselves," she murmurs, her tone laced with that careful cruelty that hides behind professionalism. Jordan Lee, 2 rows back, lifts his phone. The lens focuses, red light blinking. A caption types itself across the bottom of his recording app. "First-class drama at Gate 22. A few passengers glance up, pretending not to listen. The man in 3A tilts his newspaper higher. The woman across the aisle lowers her coffee cup mid-air. Elaine straightens her blouse. "We purchased these seats months ago," she says, soft but precise. Linda doesn't answer. She's already gesturing for Mark to fetch the boarding log. Marcus's eyes move between them, calm but alert. The stillness of a man who's had to swallow this moment too many times. "Is there a problem?" "Not yet," Linda says, smiling thinly. "Just need to make sure everything checks out." Jordan's phone catches the tension like static. The tightness around Elaine's lips, the faint tremor of the paper in Linda's hand, the glint of disbelief in Marcus's eyes. The camera pans, though Jordan doesn't realize it. His lens catches the reflection of a small object tumbling from Elaine's lap to the carpet. Her wallet, its contents sliding halfway open. A silver badge gleams under the overhead light. Carter Aviation. Leasing. Elaine bends down quickly, gathers it before anyone can read the text. But Jordan's camera has already framed it. A moment that will later echo like prophecy. "Excuse me," Elaine says again, trying for patience. "Is there a reason we're being questioned?" Linda looks up from the manifest. "Routine check," she says. "We've had misunderstandings before." "Misunderstandings?" Marcus repeats, voice low. "Like what?" Linda doesn't answer. She gives the tickets back slowly, deliberately, and steps aside as if granting them permission to exist. The silence stretches, the kind of silence that forces everyone to choose a side without speaking. Mark shifts awkwardly. "Ma'am, maybe you can just re-verify with the gate." Elaine exhales through her nose. "We're already seated. We passed the gate." Jordan's screen flickers as his viewer count climbs. 40, 300. 1,200. The chat floods with emojis and half-formed judgments. They look too calm to be guilty. She's being rude to them. Bet it's racial again. Marcus adjusts his cufflink. The fabric rustles like a whispered objection. Linda folds the manifest, tucks it under her arm. "Thank you for your cooperation," she says in the tone of someone dismissing a report. "We'll make sure everything's in order before takeoff." Elaine catches the phrase "before takeoff" and feels its weight. It isn't an apology. It's a delay dressed as politeness. She looks at Marcus. "Maybe we should just..." He shakes his head once, barely perceptible. "We've done nothing wrong." Another minute passes. A baby cries somewhere in economy, the sound carrying like a reminder of another world behind the curtain. Linda moves toward the galley, whispering again to Mark, "I just don't want trouble on board." Mark glances at the Carters, then shrugs. "They're quiet enough." "Exactly," Linda replies. Too quiet. The hum of the engines deepens. The plane feels alive now, restless. Elaine's fingers graze the badge in her purse, cold metal, engraved with her company's name, Carter Aviation Leasing. She could say it aloud, "End this right here," but she doesn't. Not yet. The weight of restraint is heavier than pride. Outside the window, the tug vehicle attaches to the nose gear. The aircraft shifts slightly, a subtle vibration underfoot. 5 minutes to push back, the intercom says. Jordan zooms in again, whispering to his camera. It's still going on. They're not moving them, but something's off. Marcus turns his head slightly toward him, eyes meeting the lens. For a moment, both men acknowledge the quiet truth between them, one living it, one recording it. Linda returns, clipboard in hand. "Sir, ma'am," she says, voice cooler now. "I'll ask you to keep your boarding passes visible until further notice." Elaine blinks. Visible? For whom? For verification. The word lands heavier than intended. It's no longer about tickets, it's about permission. Marcus places the 2 slips of paper flat on his tray table, side by side. "They're visible," he says. Linda hesitates, then turns away. As she walks down the aisle, Jordan's camera pans to the screen above row 1, where the timer ticks down. 5:4:59. A digital heartbeat counting the seconds of disbelief. Elaine exhales, half whispers, half vow. All that over a seat. Marcus replies quietly, without looking up. It's never about the seat. The engines hum louder. The countdown continues. 5 minutes to pushback. The digital countdown glows above the galley door. A quiet, pulsing reminder that time itself is moving, even if everything else feels frozen. Elaine watches Linda return with 2 security forms clipped to a silver board. Her smile has cooled into something procedural. "I'm sorry," Linda says, not sounding sorry at all. "We'll need to verify your booking with ground control. It'll just take a moment." Elaine's patience snaps a thread. "We've already been verified. Twice." Passengers glance up again. The hum of the cabin turns electric, a space charged by unspoken judgment. "Ma'am," Linda says, "I just need you to lower your voice." Elaine cuts in, firm but measured. "No, I need you to stop implying we don't belong here." The air thickens, the kind of silence that follows truth, spoken in the wrong place. Then, over the PA, a man's voice crackles through the intercom, steady, authoritative, final. "Sir, please calm your wife." The phrase lands like a blade. Every head in first class turns. Elaine blinks, as if the words physically struck her. Marcus's jaw tightens. His hands curl around the armrest. For a moment, even the engines seem to hush. "I wasn't shouting," she says, voice trembling but clear. "And I'm not his wife when you're addressing me like a child." No response. The intercom clicks off, leaving static in its wake. Jordan's camera catches it all. the half-second flinch in Marcus's face, the way Elaine's fingers tremble against her boarding pass. The chat explodes. Did he really say that? Captain just made it worse. She handled that better than anyone would. Linda shifts her weight. Ma'am, I don't control the captain's announcements. Then maybe you should control your assumptions, Elaine answers quietly. A passenger coughs, awkward and loud. The collective discomfort turns physical people adjusting seatbelts, avoiding eye contact, pretending to read. Marcus reaches into his briefcase, pulling out his phone. The screen lights his face in a soft blue glow. His thumb slides over the screen, opening an email. Subject: Lease renewal. Fleet number A. 9. The words sit there. Quiet power wrapped in pixels. Jordan's lens catches it, a reflection in the cabin window, just long enough for the camera to record. He doesn't yet understand what he's seen, but his audience will later freeze the frame, zoom in, and connect the dots. Elaine leans toward Marcus, whispering, "This isn't worth it." He shakes his head. "It always is." Linda clears her throat. "Sir, if you'd like to deplane, we can accommodate you in economy until this is resolved." Marcus looks up, expression unreadable. "Accommodate?" "Yes, sir. We just want to avoid escalation." That word escalation burns colder than anger. Elaine folds her hands in her lap. "We'll stay where we are." Linda hesitates, then forces a smile. "Of course." She turns to walk away, and as she does, a piece of paper slips from her clipboard, a printed copy of the manifest. It lands near Marcus's shoes. He bends to pick it up. Next to their names, the handwritten note reads, "Verify. Possible fraud. Self-upgrade." Marcus stares at it. For a long second, he doesn't breathe. Elaine sees it too. "They wrote that?" she whispers. He folds the paper once, precisely, and slides it into the seat pocket in front of him. Outside the window, a luggage cart trundles past, its beeping faint but rhythmic like a countdown that no one else hears. The intercom crackles again. 4 minutes to pushback. Jordan whispers to his phone, voice low, reverent almost. "You can feel it. The air's heavy." Elaine looks straight ahead. "If I stand up, they'll call it aggression. If I stay seated, they'll call it compliance." Marcus murmurs, "So sit, but don't shrink." She nods once, eyes glistening but unbroken. Linda returns briefly, her tone now thinly professional. Marcus replies, quiet steel in his voice. "You're welcome to it." 1. A faint chuckle ripples from somewhere behind a nervous passenger, trying to break the tension, but it dies instantly under the weight of what's happening. Jordan pans the camera slowly across the cabin. The nervous glances, the tightening grips on armrests, the soundless solidarity of strangers realizing they're watching something wrong unfold in real time. Elaine closes her eyes. In her reflection on the window, the cabin lights fracture her face into 2 halves, one composed, one cracking. 3 minutes to pushback, says the intercom. Marcus glances again at his phone. The subject line glows quietly. Lease renewal. Fleet number A. 9. W. Marcus. 1% compli. 1 up describe. Lease renewal. Fleet number A. 9. He locks the screen, slips the phone into his jacket pocket. A quiet decision forms behind his eyes, one no one else yet sees. The camera holds on his reflection as the engines roar softly beneath them. Outside, the runway lights blur in the heat, like distant stars flickering under pressure. Inside, silence holds the cabin hostage. The cabin has gone eerily quiet. The hum of the air system fills the void where words used to be. Elaine sits upright in seat 2B, her hands folded over the crumpled boarding passes. Her knuckles are white, but her face is still. Across the aisle, a businessman pretends to type on his laptop, fingers motionless. Jordan's phone lens catches the tableau. The couple in still life. The air vibrating with tension no one dares puncture. The live viewer count jumps. 40, 800, 2,100, 5,000. Comments flicker up the screen. They're not even talking now. You can feel how wrong this is. Why is no one stopping it? The intercom has gone silent. Even Linda's footsteps are gone, absorbed into the carpet. Elaine exhales softly, almost soundless. Then, with deliberate calm, she reaches forward and lays both boarding passes flat on the tray table. She smooths them out, pressing the creases with her fingertips as if erasing the insult itself. The paper glints faintly under the overhead light row number 2, visible like a wound reopened. Jordan zooms in. His breath fogs the edge of his lens. The camera focuses on that number, 2A. It stays there, still, waiting. Marcus glances at his wife. "Are you okay?" he whispers. She nods once. "Not yet." Her voice isn't angry. It's restrained, carved from patience and pain. Outside the window, a baggage truck idles, the orange beacon spinning lazily in circles. Inside, the only movement comes from a single flight attendant 2 rows ahead, straightening a pillow, pretending this isn't happening. Marcus leans back, resting his head against the seat. His reflection in the window merges with the flashing lights outside, making it seem as if the world is moving around him while he remains anchored. Jordan lowers his phone slightly, unsure whether to keep filming. His hands tremble. He's no longer just a witness. He's complicit. Elaine notices. She turns, meeting his eyes across the aisle. There's no accusation, no plea, just quiet recognition. She nods, as if giving him permission to keep watching, to remember. Jordan nods back. The red light on his phone stays on. A muffled announcement crackles through the intercom. "Cabin crew, prepare for final checks." Elaine's gaze doesn't move. Her breathing steadies. The boarding passes lie before her like evidence. One edge of the paper flutters slightly from the air vent above, the letters 2A catching the light again. Somewhere behind her, a passenger whispers, "Why don't they just let it go?" Another answers, "Because they shouldn't have to." Marcus's hand drifts toward Elaine's. Their fingers brush, just enough to be seen, but not enough to draw attention. A wordless act of solidarity. Jordan's chat fills again. She's so composed. "This is heartbreaking. They're being treated like suspects." Linda reappears, clipboard clutched tighter than before. Her posture is rigid, now a soldier in her own moral confusion. She pauses by their row, eyes flicking down to the boarding passes lying openly on the tray. "You can put those away now," she says softly. Elaine looks up. "They're already visible." The words are calm, but they sting like truth laid bare. Linda swallows, unsure of what to do with her own discomfort. She opens her mouth, closes it again, then nods stiffly and walks on. Elaine doesn't move. Neither does Marcus. The cabin returns to stillness. The air smells faintly of recycled coffee and static electricity. The low vibration of the engines seeps through the floor. Jordan zooms out slowly, capturing the entire row. Elaine's poise, Marcus's stillness, the unspoken charge between them and the world around them. On the live stream, the comments slow down. No one is typing now. The silence has crossed the screen, infecting everyone watching. A soft ding echoes. The final cabin chime before departure. Elaine blinks once. "Steady," she whispers, just to herself. "Hold your ground." Marcus answers, almost imperceptibly. "Always." The camera lingers on the boarding passes one last time. The row number 2A burns faintly in the cabin light, reflected upside down in the silver edge of the tray. The aircraft cabin feels smaller now, tighter, as if the air itself has learned to listen. Jordan's live stream counter flicks upward like a pulse gone wild. 6,000, 300, 8,000, 200, 12,000, 500, 20,000. The comment feed flashes faster than the human eye can follow. Elaine sits motionless, staring straight ahead. Marcus has not moved his hand from hers since the last announcement. Then, a voice breaks through the tension. Female, mid-40s, polite but firm. "They paid for these seats," the woman says. She's in 2C, just across the aisle. Her face is pale, trembling, but her eyes don't waver. "I saw their boarding passes." Every head turns toward her. Even the sound of the air vent seems to hesitate. Linda freezes in the aisle, clipboard in hand. Her professional mask falters for half a breath before she answers. "Ma'am, I need compliance, not commentary." The words hit the cabin like a slap. The woman flinches, then folds her hands, staring at her knees, but she doesn't apologize. Jordan's phone captures it all, the lens trembling slightly as his heart races. The chat explodes again. "She spoke up. The attendant just shut her down." "Compliance? Seriously?" A man in the row behind clears his throat. "She's right," he mutters. "They're being treated unfairly." Another passenger shushes him, soft, scared. Linda senses the shift and straightens her back. "Sir, please refrain from disrupting cabin order," she says, voice rising a notch. "We are following protocol." Marcus looks up. Whose protocol? That simple question stops her cold. She doesn't answer. Elaine's voice, low but steady, follows. "Because so far, it feels like your rules change depending on who's sitting in the seat." A few people gasp. Someone drops a plastic cup. It clatters to the floor, absurdly loud. Jordan's camera pans slowly across the rows, the passengers' faces caught between guilt and awakening. The woman in 2C swallows hard. "You don't have to talk to them like that," she says again, softer this time, but firmer in conviction. Linda rounds on her. "Ma'am, please don't involve yourself." "I already am," the woman replies. "So are all of us." It's not a yell. It's the calm defiance of someone whose realized silence is participation. The feed explodes again. "Yes, protect her too. This flight is a moral test." Jordan pans back to Elaine. She hasn't moved, but her eyes are different now. Wet, yes, but burning with that sharp, quiet dignity that demands witness. Linda inhales sharply. "Everyone, please return to your seats," she says, voice brittle. "We are moments from departure." The captain's voice crackles over the intercom, oblivious to the theater below. "Flight attendants, prepare for pushback." Jordan's camera trembles. The viewer count peaks again. The sound of his breathing overlays the background hum. Elaine glances sideways at Marcus, whispers, "She's scared." Marcus nods. "They all are. Even her?" "Yes, especially her." For the first time, Elaine looks at Linda not with anger, but recognition. The two women lock eyes. Linda looks away first. The cabin becomes a moral echo chamber. The low buzz of conversation starts to swell, small comments, whispers of discomfort, nervous laughs. "She's filming this, right? Someone's going to get sued. Why aren't they stopping the plane?" Linda steps forward again, forcing control back into her tone. "I am asking for compliance one last time," she says. Marcus lifts his gaze slowly. "What I want," Linda snaps, "is for this flight to leave on time. And what you're willing to sacrifice for that," Marcus murmurs, "is everyone's conscience." The silence that follows feels heavier than sound. A beep rings out Jordan's phone battery warning. He ignores it. The red light stays on. The woman in 2C exhales shakily. She reaches across the aisle, placing a napkin gently on Elaine's tray table. On it, she's written one word in shaky ink: "Sorry." Elaine smiles faintly. "Don't be," she whispers. "Just don't forget." Jordan's camera catches it. The napkin, the faint blue ink, the way Elaine's fingers hold it, like something sacred. The intercom dings again. "Cabin crew, doors to automatic." Linda turns sharply, clipboard to her chest. Her eyes flicker over the cabin, full of witnesses, real, digital, moral. For the first time, she looks uncertain. The live stream counter hovers at 20,000 and climbing. Elaine presses the napkin flat beside her boarding passes. 2 words now. 2A. Sorry. Her dignity sits there, visible, undeniable. And the cabin holds its breath. 2 minutes to pushback. The intercom voice is clinical, detached, like a countdown in a hospital operating room. The aircraft hums to life. Air vents whisper. Hydraulics click. Seatbelt signs flash amber, then white. Linda's voice breaks the mechanical rhythm. "Captain, I've submitted the incident note. Possible self-upgrade, passengers in 2A-2B refusing to comply." Captain Harris's voice answers through the handset. Calm, confident, too fast. "Copy. Lock the boarding door. We'll handle it in the air, if necessary." A metallic thunk echoes through the cabin. The sound of finality. Door locked, decision made. Elaine flinches at the noise, instinctively gripping Marcus's hand. Marcus exhales through his nose, long and steady. "There it is," he whispers. The sound of belief without proof. Jordan's phone shakes in his hand. The live stream counter surges. 20,000, 33,000, 54,000, 80,000. Plus, comments flood the screen like rain. They locked the door? They can't just leave with this happening. Where's the airline rep? In the cockpit, Harris removes his headset for a moment, wiping sweat from his temple. "Let's not escalate," he says, mostly to himself. But he's already done it. Back in the cabin, Linda walks briskly down the aisle, eyes darting to every passenger like a warden checking cells. "Seats upright, devices off," she commands. The words are automatic, empty, protocol spoken over empathy. The woman in 2C, the one who'd defended the Carters, whispers, "You can't just trap people like this." Linda doesn't reply. Her face has gone pale, jaw locked. Elaine looks out the window. The tug vehicle is already moving away. The terminal lights recede, becoming streaks against glass. Her reflection merges with the blur of runway lights, half woman, half ghost of patience. Marcus leans closer, voice low. "Do you hear that?" The engines? No. The silence of people who've chosen safety over truth. Jordan catches that line. He mouths it silently to the camera. Safety over truth. It becomes a hashtag seconds later. In a control room 30 miles away, a public relations assistant named Sarah Lynn watches the feed appear on her social media dashboard. Her phone buzzes internal company message. PR alert. Flight 227 trending. Possible bias incident. She freezes. A second message arrives from her manager. Pause renewal talks. Check flight 227 issue. Her fingers hover over the keyboard. She opens the feed. Marcus Carter's face fills the frame. Calm, exhausted, furious in stillness. Sarah's lips part in recognition. She whispers, "Oh my God, Carter Aviation Leasing." The system has just realized who's sitting in 2A. Back in the plane, Linda makes one last pass through the aisle, whispering to Mark, the ground supervisor who's still on comms. "Doors are locked. We're clear?" "Clear," Mark replies, though his voice wavers. "Cabin secured," Linda announces. Her voice quivers. She's starting to understand the gravity of what secured means. Elaine stares straight ahead, eyes fixed on nothing. Her hands rest over the boarding passes, protecting them like fragile relics. The number 2A gleams in the cabin light, reflected on the silver surface of her wedding band. Jordan whispers to his camera, "They locked the door on them. You're watching this live." The comments now scroll too fast to read. Screenshots are already spreading. News alerts buzz in pockets across the world. Marcus closes his eyes. His lips move silently, a prayer, or maybe a calculation. In the cockpit, Captain Harris looks down at the manifest displayed on his tablet. Next to Passenger 2, A, 2B. Verify. Self-upgrade flashes a small digital tag. Flagged, unverified. He hesitates. "Linda, did we get confirmation from the gate?" Her reply is quick, defensive. "Yes, sir. They're not on the premium list." Copy. He hesitates again. "Okay. Pushback clearance granted." Sarah Lynn's fingers fly across her keyboard, typing into the internal message board. "Stop Flight 227 from departing. Those passengers are the leasing executives. If this goes public, we're finished." But it's already public. The live viewer count hits 93,000. The comments now blend into one unified emotion: rage, disbelief, heartbreak. Back in the cabin, the woman in 2C whispers, "They're locking themselves in with their mistake." Elaine hears her, turns slightly, and says softly, "That's how institutions work. They mistake silence for safety." Marcus looks at his watch. "1 minute to push back," he says quietly. The intercom crackles again, Captain Harris's voice. Final. Official. Cabin crew, cross-check and report. Jordan zooms in one last time on the couple's faces, the composure, the restraint, the unbearable dignity. The camera trembles. His voice cracks. They're not saying a word. Not one. The engines spool up. The plane shudders. The boarding door stands sealed. The air thick with moral static. Inside the locked cabin, injustice hums in perfect synchronization with the machine meant to fly. And 93,000 witnesses hold their breath together. The engines hum lower now, a sound like the breath before confession. Jordan's phone trembles in his grip. He's still streaming, still whispering, still a conduit for 93,000 unseen hearts. Then something flickers on Marcus's phone. The glow catches Jordan's eye, an email subject line bright against the dim cabin light. Lease renewal, fleet number A9. Jordan blinks. His lens zooms. The camera autofocus hunts, then locks on the text. The live stream feed freezes for a heartbeat, as if the internet itself holds its breath. Someone in the front row squints. "Wait," the man mutters, half to himself, half to history. That's the leasing company. Heads turn. The whisper multiplies. "What did he say? Leasing what? You mean they?" Linda stops, mid-step, clipboard halfway raised. "Excuse me?" she snaps, too quickly. The man leans forward, pointing toward Marcus's phone. "That's Carter Aviation Leasing. They lease half this airline's fleet." A silence detonates. Jordan's feed unfreezes. His phone buzzes, comments bursting back into motion. It's them. They literally own the plane. This just flipped. Linda's throat works soundlessly. "That's not possible," she whispers. "That's no." Elaine meets her eyes. Calm, almost gentle. It is. For the first time, Linda steps back instead of forward. The clipboard lowers. Her breath trembles. Captain Harris's voice crackles through the intercom again, oblivious to the turn. "Cabin crew, prepare for taxi." But the phone in his hand starts ringing. The small cockpit fills with the shrill tone of corporate panic. He answers. "Flight deck?" A new voice, urgent, female, professional. "This is Operations Control. Do not move that plane." "What?" "Repeat. Do not move. The Carters are on board." Captain Harris blinks, cold sweat forming under his headset. The who? The Carters. Carter Aviation Leasing. You're sitting on their plane. The line goes dead. He stares at the controls, at the runway ahead gleaming under sodium lights, and finally says the words no pilot wants to say after clearance. Ground, Flight 227 holding position. Back in the cabin, Linda's radio chirps. She fumbles to answer, voice shaky. Yes, this is Flight 227. A pause. Then, keep the passengers calm. Do nothing further. Her hand drops to her side. The authority in her voice evaporates. Passengers murmur. The woman in 2C clasps her mouth, whispering, "Oh my God." Marcus sits completely still. Elaine lowers her gaze, whispering, "It's done." He nods. No, it's begun. The tension reverses direction. The fear migrates off their shoulders into the uniforms. Jordan pans the camera. The red light glows steady, his voice barely a whisper. Everyone. The captain stopped the plane. The feed count spikes past 110,000. The screen floods with digital vindication. This is Justice Live. Let them speak. The system got caught in 4K. Linda sinks into the jump seat, hands clasped tightly. She looks up, meeting Elaine's eyes across the aisle. There's no anger left in Elaine's expression, only the quiet ache of someone who's seen this cycle before. The captain's door opens slightly. His face appears stern, confused, human. "Mr. Carter," he says slowly, "I just received information. May we speak privately?" Marcus looks around the cabin, at the lenses, the passengers, the hundreds of unseen eyes through screens. "Here is fine," he says. "We're all witnesses, aren't we?" A ripple moves through the cabin, part relief, part disbelief. Captain Harris hesitates. His hand trembles slightly on the door handle. "Sir, I wasn't aware." "Neither were we," Marcus replies, voice level. "We didn't come here to remind you who we are." He glances at Elaine. "We came here to see who you are when no one's watching." Jordan lowers his phone, not out of duty, but reverence. The screen stops recording live stream. Frozen at the peak, 117,000 watching. The engines idle. The aircraft is a capsule of silence, suspended between apology and awe. Elaine finally exhales. "They stopped the plane," she whispers. Marcus nods once. "Then maybe it's time they start the truth." The captain looks down. "Sir, I'll report this myself." "Good," Marcus says. Linda looks at her reflection in the window, her own eyes, pale and uncertain, staring back. Her radio hisses with background chatter she can't make herself answer. Outside, floodlights sweep across the tarmac, illuminating the aircraft's silver fuselage. For a moment, it gleams like a mirror truth, reflecting back on the system that made it. And in seat 2A, the boarding pass still lies untouched on the tray, the ink unblurred, the number sharp and righteous under the cabin lights. The plane stands still on the tarmac, engines idling, lights dimmed, the cabin a suspended courtroom. No one speaks. Then, Marcus Carter rises. Not abruptly, not in anger, but with the gravity of a man reclaiming the air around him. His movement draws every eye, even the camera lenses that have become the world's collective pupils. Jordan's live stream crosses 100,000 viewers. The red dot pulses like a heartbeat. Marcus looks toward Captain Harris, still half in the cockpit doorway. "You said you'd report this yourself," he begins quietly. "Good. Let's start now." The captain swallows, nods once, eyes cast down. "Yes, sir." Linda sits frozen in her jump seat. Her clipboard rests useless in her lap, hands trembling against the metal edge. Marcus turns to face the cabin, his voice carrying with measured calm. "We don't own this plane." He pauses, letting the weight of truth fill the silence. "We trust you to fly it with respect." Every syllable lands soft, yet heavy. The kind of statement that doesn't need to be shouted because it echoes in conscience. Elaine stands beside him, still silent, but her eyes glisten. She looks at Linda, then at the woman in 2C, whose trembling hands are clasped tight in her lap. The human chain of witness feels almost physical now. Linda tries to speak, fails, and then whispers, "I didn't mean." Elaine interrupts gently, "I know." And somehow, that forgiveness sounds heavier than any reprimand. The intercom buzzes faintly. The captain's voice emerges careful, low, different. "Ladies and gentlemen, there's been a misunderstanding. We will be reopening the boarding door momentarily." The cabin exhales. Someone sobs quietly. Another claps once, then stops, unsure if it's appropriate to celebrate justice or mourn its delay. Jordan keeps filming. The viewer count spikes again. 120,000. His voice trembles as he narrates. "They stopped the flight. The couple stood up. The captain apologized. The door's opening." Outside, a ground agent waves toward the plane. The thunk of the door latch disengaging fills the air. Light bursts in a golden wash, spilling down the aisle, slicing through the sterile cabin lighting. Elaine shields her eyes for a second, blinking as the sunlight hits her face. The boarding door, once the sound of imprisonment, now sings open like a release valve. Marcus turns back to Linda, voice soft but unwavering. "You didn't humiliate us," he says. "You humiliated your own uniform. Don't let it happen again." Linda nods, eyes glassy, lower lip trembling. She begins, but can't finish. The woman in 2C speaks again, quietly. "Thank you." Elaine smiles at her. "For what?" "For not shouting." Elaine exhales, voice shaking. "Because if we shout, no one listens. But silence, they record that." Her eyes flick briefly toward Jordan's phone. The red light still blinks. Captain Harris steps fully into the aisle now. "Mr. Carter, Mrs. Carter, I'll see to it that this is reported correctly." Marcus nods. "Do that, but don't do it for us. Do it because everyone saw it." The man in 3 mutters under his breath, "Whole world saw it." Outside, a figure in a reflective vest waves frantically. "Operations control." A voice calls through the radio in Harris's hand. "Flight 227. Halt operations pending review. Do not taxi." It's official. The system has grounded itself. Elaine sits again, but she doesn't recline. The boarding passes remain on the tray, creased, smoothed, sacred. 2A catches the sunlight, glowing gold instead of sterile white. Jordan slowly lowers his phone, the red dot finally going dark. He whispers, "It's over." Marcus shakes his head. "No, it's visible." A ripple of murmurs moves through the cabin, some in relief, some in quiet shame. Linda unbuckles from her seat, approaches the couple. "Sir, ma'am." She stops. There's nothing left to defend. "I'm sorry." Elaine meets her halfway. "I know you are," she says softly. "Just make sure next time you don't need to be." For a moment, the plane feels lighter not because it's moving, but because it's finally unburdened. The boarding door stands wide open now, the roar of the runway mixing with the faint sound of applause from outside the ground crew, maybe, or conscience itself. Jordan pans one last time. The camera lingers on the open doorway, the sunlight flooding in. The reflection of 2A shining like a seal of dignity restored. And in that golden light, the balance shifts. Justice no longer demanded, but earned. Jordan lowers his phone slowly. The red recording light fades out. 112,000 people have just seen history. But this, what comes now, isn't for them. Linda stands a few feet away from Marcus and Elaine. Her voice, when it comes, isn't professional anymore. It's small, humans. "My father," she begins, eyes down, fingers twisting her badge lanyard, "was a flight engineer. 32 years with the company. One day, he got blamed for a fuel imbalance that wasn't his fault. They grounded him for life. He never got to explain." Her eyes lift just enough to meet Elaine's. "I promised myself I'd never lose control of a cabin the way he did that day. I thought being strict meant being safe." Elaine watches her for a long moment. Her shoulders, which have carried hours of restraint, finally lower. "My brother was dragged off a plane," she says softly. "He wasn't loud. He wasn't fighting. They said he looked suspicious. He never flew again, not because he couldn't afford it, but because he couldn't forget." Linda swallows. "I think maybe we both were just trying to protect something we'd already lost." A long, gentle silence follows, fragile as glass. The woman in 2C, who had spoken earlier, quietly hands over a tissue. Linda doesn't take it, not out of pride, but because her hands are trembling too much. Elaine takes it instead, tears balanced, but not fallen. Marcus looks between them, his voice low, steady. "Fear does strange things to people, makes them mistake control for safety." Linda nods. "And when you can't control yourself, you control someone else." The hum of the engines deepens, blending with the faint radio chatter outside. For the first time, Linda doesn't flinch at the sound. She simply sits down across the aisle, on the edge of an empty seat. Elaine tilts her head slightly. "You could have doubled down. Most people would have." "I did," Linda admits, "until I saw how still you both were. That's what scared me most. You weren't fighting." Elaine smiles faintly. "We've been fighting our whole lives. Just learned how to do it quietly." The sunlight fades further, replaced by the cool glow of the cabin lights. The world beyond the open door glows silver blue. Linda takes off her badge, sets it on the tray table beside Elaine's boarding pass. "If I could go back 20 minutes. Elaine shakes her head. "You don't get to erase it. None of us do." Marcus leans forward, tone kind but unyielding. "But you can report it right. Truth is the only apology that lasts." Linda nods. "I will." Her eyes flick toward the camera on Jordan's lap, dark now. "Will they believe me?" Elaine answers gently. "They'll believe what they saw. But it's not them you're trying to convince." The air feels lighter. The anger has drained out, leaving something cleaner, quieter, mutual ache. From the galley, the captain's voice, softer, now comes through. Operations has cleared the cabin for deboarding when ready. Linda exhales, eyes closing briefly. "I'm glad it's over." Elaine looks at her, the faintest smile returning. "It's not over, but it's visible." Marcus stands, straightens his jacket. "Visibility is where justice starts." Linda looks at him. "And where forgiveness begins." He hesitates, then nods, sometimes. The woman in 2C, tear-streaked, whispers, "Can I hug you?" Elaine chuckles through her exhaustion. "Not yet, but someday." They all share a small, fragile laugh, the first sound in hours that isn't charged with tension. Jordan tucks his phone into his pocket. His voice cracks when he says, "I think people are going to remember this." Marcus looks out toward the open door, the tarmac glowing with city light. "I hope they remember it enough to change something." The engines wind down completely now. The air turns still. The silence feels sacred, not suffocating. Linda stands. "Thank you for not yelling," she says quietly. Elaine looks at her, eyes wet. "Thank you for listening." Their reflections meet in the window, two faces, two stories, one scar mirrored across different decades of fear. The camera isn't rolling. The crowd online isn't watching. The sky outside the cabin door is no longer gold, it's turning pale. The early light of a new day reflecting off the aircraft's silver skin. Ground staff move slowly beneath the plane. The chaos has thinned to a hum of aftershock. Inside, Marcus and Elaine remain seated. Linda has stepped away, speaking quietly with the captain near the galley. The rest of the passengers have deboarded in silence, no applause now, just the weight of having witnessed something that can't be unseen. Elaine looks at the 2 boarding passes still on the tray. The paper edges curl slightly from her fingertips. "Feels strange," she says. "Still sitting here after everything." Marcus nods. "We started here. Might as well end here." The chime of a message breaks the stillness. Linda's phone lights up first, then Marcus's. The notification banner is identical. Airline ops. Urgent update. Bias audit initiated. Flight 227 under review. Lease renewal paused pending inquiry. Elaine reads it twice, the words cold and official, and somehow beautiful in their plainness. "They're auditing themselves," she murmurs. Marcus exhales, leaning back. That's how change begins. Linda approaches, her posture smaller now, but her voice clearer. "Sir, ma'am, I've been asked to accompany the investigation. I'll give them everything, every word, every decision." Elaine offers a faint, tired smile. "Then make sure you tell them what silence sounds like." Linda nods, blinking back tears. "I will." She turns to leave, then pauses at the doorway. "You were right," she says softly. "It was never about the seat." And she's gone. The cabin is empty now. Sunlight creeps across the carpet, catching the metallic shimmer of the seatbelt buckle. The engines sigh one final time before shutting down completely. Marcus looks out toward the open door, the tarmac beyond washed in morning light. "No," he says quietly, over what the seat stands for. The air between them vibrates with meaning. A ground agent steps aboard, polite but cautious. "Mr. and Mrs. Carter. The company's representative is waiting in the lounge." Marcus nods. "We'll be right there." The agent hesitates. "For what it's worth, sir. I'm sorry. For what happened?" Marcus's gaze softens. "Then don't let it happen again. That's the real apology." The agent nods and steps away. Elaine gathers her purse, glances once more at the cabin, the frozen echoes of judgment, empathy, and transformation lingering in the air. She notices the seat number above her, 2A. It gleams now, catching the sunlight, no longer a mark of exclusion, but of endurance. She touches the embossed number gently, a small, wordless benediction. As they move toward the exit, the intercom crackles one final time. The captain's voice, uncertain but sincere. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is Captain Harris. We'll be initiating a full internal review. Thank you for your patience and for reminding us who we serve." Elaine pauses at the doorway, looking back. The cabin is empty, but she speaks as if to the space itself. "Serve with respect," she says softly. Outside, the air is cold and clean. The noise of morning traffic hums faintly in the distance. Marcus slips his arm around her shoulders. "You okay?" "I will be," she answers. "I just wish my brother could have seen this." He nods, tightening his grip. He did. In some way, he did. They walk down the stairs, sunlight flaring across their faces. Behind them, the plane sits still, the open door glowing like a wound, cauterized pain turned to light. The engines tick quietly as they cool. And on the tray in 2A, 2 boarding passes lie untouched under the rising sun, the print sharp and defiant. Carter, Elaine, 2AF. Carter, Marcus, 2B. Their silence lingers longer than applause. What did you feel when the cabin felt silent, anger, empathy, or hope? Share your thoughts below your words to keep these stories alive. If this moment moved you, like, share, and subscribe for more true-to-life stories about courage, justice, and human grace. Because sometimes, it only takes one story to make the world listen a little closer.